Respond, don't react. The Stoic method to rewire your mind. Most people don't realize this, but their life is being controlled by reactions. Someone says something careless, they explode. Something goes wrong, they panic. Someone disrespects them. Their mood collapses for hours, sometimes days. They think they are reacting to the world. In reality, they are being controlled by it. Stoic psychology teaches a simple but radical truth. Between what happens and how you respond, there is a choice. And in that choice lies either slavery or freedom. Anger is not the problem. Triggers are not the problem. People are not the problem. The real problem is automatic reaction. A reaction is unconscious. A response is deliberate. A reaction is emotional reflex. A response is trained control. Most people live in reaction mode. They are not deciding how to feel. They are being decided for. This is why one comment can ruin their day. One delay can steal their peace. One person can control their emotional state. Stoicism was built to end this. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by events, but by their judgments about events. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the power to not be harmed, if you refuse to be harmed. This is not motivation. This is mental training. In this deep guide, you will learn how to break the habit of emotional reactivity, build the skill of conscious response, rewire how your mind processes triggers, stay calm under pressure, become unbothered by people and situations, and stop giving your power away to external events. This is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming uncontrollable. When you master this, something changes permanently. People can no longer push your buttons because there are no buttons left to push. Part 1. The hidden cost of living in reaction mode. Most people believe their reactions are natural. They say, "This is just how I am. I can't help it. That's just my temper. They made me angry." Stoic psychology would say, no, you were not forced, you were untrained. A reaction is simply a habit of the nervous system. If your mind has learned to interpret stress as danger, it reacts with anger. If it has learned to interpret criticism as a threat, it reacts with defense. If it has learned to interpret delay as disrespect, it reacts with frustration. None of this is destiny. It is conditioning. And anything that is conditioned can be reconditioned. The problem with reaction mode is not just emotional pain. It is loss of control. When you react, you say things you later regret. You make decisions you later pay for. You give people power over your mood. You let situations dictate your inner state. This is psychological weakness, not because you feel emotions, but because you obey them. A reaction skips thinking. It goes straight from stimulus to behavior, event to emotion to action. A response inserts something powerful in the middle, awareness, event to awareness to choice to action. That small pause changes everything. The Stoics trained this pause. They understood that if you can slow down the moment between impulse and action, you can rewrite your entire life. Marcus Aurelius called this the ruling faculty. The part of the mind that decides how you interpret and respond. Most people never train this faculty. They let it be hijacked by mood, stress, ego, and fear. This is why the same situations keep producing the same reactions. Same triggers, same anger, same regrets. Different day, same mind. Stoicism breaks this loop. It teaches you to see your emotions as signals, not commands. Anger says, something feels wrong. It does not say, attack. Fear says, something feels uncertain. It does not say, run. Ego says, your image feels threatened. It does not say, defend at all costs. The untrained mind obeys these signals. The trained mind examines them. This is the beginning of freedom. When you stop reacting, 3 things happen. Your clarity increases. You see situations more accurately instead of emotionally. Your power increases. People lose the ability to control your mood. Your respect for yourself increases because you start acting deliberately, not impulsively. This is not a personality change, it is a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. The Stoics did not ask, "How do I never feel anger?" They asked, "How do I never let anger control me?" That is a much stronger goal, because emotions will always arise, but obedience is optional. In the next part, you'll learn exactly how Stoics create the pause between trigger and action, and how you can start training it in real life. Part 2. How to build the pause. The Stoic skill that breaks emotional control. The difference between a calm, powerful person and an emotionally reactive person is not intelligence, it is time. Specifically, the amount of time between a trigger and a response. A reactive person has almost no gap between what happens and what they do. A trained person creates a pause. Stoic philosophy is built around strengthening this pause. Epictetus taught that the first thing to say to yourself when something happens is, "You are only an impression, not the thing itself." This single sentence is a psychological weapon. It reminds you that what you are experiencing is not reality. It is your interpretation of reality. The moment you see this, space appears, and in that space you regain control. Let's break this down. When someone insults you, the insult itself is just sound. The anger comes from the meaning you attach to it. When something goes wrong, the event itself is neutral. The stress comes from the story you tell yourself about it. The Stoics trained themselves to interrupt this story. They did not try to suppress emotion. They questioned the judgment that created the emotion. This is how the pause is built. Step 1. Name what is happening. Instead of saying, "This is disrespectful," you say, "I am having the impression that this is disrespectful." This sounds simple, but it creates distance. You are no longer inside the emotion. You are observing it. Step 2. Delay action. The Stoics believed that no strong emotion should be acted on immediately. Not anger, not fear, not excitement. Time weakens emotional intensity and strengthens reason. Even a few seconds of silence can prevent a mistake that lasts years. Step 3. Ask one powerful question. What would a calm, disciplined version of me do here? This question shifts authority from emotion to character. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" You start asking, "What is the right response?" This is the Stoic filter. Most people never use it. They let emotion decide and then justify the result. Stoics reverse this. They decide first, then they act. This practice feels unnatural at first. Your nervous system is used to speed, to defense, to impulse, but with repetition, the pause becomes automatic. Just like a muscle, self-control strengthens with use. Modern psychology calls this emotional regulation. Stoics called it self-mastery. Same skill, different language. Here is a simple daily training drill. For one day, do not immediately respond to anything that triggers you. Not emails, not comments, not arguments, not stress. Pause, breathe, observe the emotion, then respond. You will notice something important. Most urges to react fade if you don't obey them instantly. They lose strength, they lose urgency, and when they lose urgency, you regain control. This is why Stoics appear calm, not because they feel nothing, but because they have trained the pause. In the next part, you'll learn something deeper. Why most people are addicted to being offended, how ego keeps you reactive, and how Stoics break free from emotional traps that control almost everyone. Part 3. Why ego keeps you reactive and how Stoics break free. Most people think anger comes from situations. Stoic psychology says it comes from ego, not ego in the sense of confidence, ego in the sense of identity attachment. You react strongly only when something touches how you see yourself. Someone questions your intelligence, you get defensive. Someone ignores you, you feel disrespected. Someone disagrees with you, you feel threatened. Why? Because the mind interprets these moments as attacks on identity. The Stoics understood this mechanism centuries ago. They taught that the more you tie your peace to your image, reputation, or status, the more reactive you become. Ego creates emotional buttons, and the world will press them. Most people spend their life protecting an image. I must be respected. I must be right. I must not look weak. I must be admired. These beliefs make the mind fragile. The moment reality does not cooperate, emotion explodes. Stoicism dissolves this fragility by attacking the root: identity attachment. Epictetus taught that you are not your reputation, your role, or your achievements. You are your character and choices. When this distinction becomes clear, insults lose their power. If someone calls you incompetent, what actually happened? Words were spoken. If they are true, you can improve. If they are false, they change nothing. Only ego turns this into emotional pain. The Stoics practiced something radical: voluntary humility. They trained themselves to accept being misunderstood, ignored, or criticized without emotional collapse, not because they were weak, but because they were free. Freedom is not needing to defend your image. This is difficult because ego feels like protection. In reality, it is a trap. The more you defend your ego, the more control others have over your emotions. If someone can offend you, they can control you. Stoicism removes this leverage. A simple Stoic reframing looks like this. Instead of asking, "Why did they treat me like this?" you ask, "Why do I need their behavior to confirm my worth?" That question exposes the dependency. This does not mean you accept mistreatment. It means you stop letting mistreatment define your inner state. There is a difference between setting boundaries and being emotionally hijacked. Stoics choose boundaries with calm. Reactive people choose conflict with emotion. Another Stoic practice is negative visualization of reputation. You imagine being criticized, misunderstood, or ignored, and you realize something important. You still exist. Your character still exists. Your ability to act with dignity still exists. Nothing essential is harmed. This weakens ego's grip. Over time, you begin to notice a change. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't need the last word. You don't need to prove your worth emotionally. Silence becomes easier. Calm becomes natural. This does not make you passive. It makes you selective. You stop fighting battles that only exist in the ego, and because of that, your emotional energy returns to you. In the next part, you'll learn how Stoics reprogram their internal dialogue so triggers stop feeling personal and stress stops feeling threatening. Part 4. Reprogramming your inner dialogue. How Stoics stop taking things personally. Most people don't suffer because of what happens. They suffer because of what they say to themselves about what happens. The event is neutral. The story is what creates pain. Stoic psychology focuses heavily on this internal narrative. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by things, but by their judgments about things. This means your emotional life is shaped more by interpretation than by reality. Two people can face the same situation. One stays calm, the other becomes angry or anxious. The difference is not the event, it is the inner dialogue. The Stoics trained themselves to intercept this dialogue before it turned into emotional chaos. Here is how the untrained mind works. Something goes wrong. Then the mind says, "This is unfair. This shouldn't happen to me." Then emotion intensifies. Then reaction follows. The Stoic mind changes this sequence. Something goes wrong, to the mind says, "This is unpleasant, but it is part of life." To emotion softens to response, becomes deliberate. Same event, different story, different outcome. This is not self-deception, it is accurate thinking. Most emotional suffering comes from exaggeration, personalization, and entitlement. The mind adds words like, "This is unbearable. This always happens to me. They did this on purpose. This means something is wrong with me." These are not facts, they are interpretations. Stoicism trains you to question them. A simple Stoic mental filter looks like this. Ask, what part of this is actually in my control? What part of this is just my opinion about it? What happens if I remove the story and keep only the facts? When you do this, emotional intensity drops. For example, fact, someone didn't reply to your message. Story, they are ignoring me, they don't respect me. The story creates anxiety or anger. The fact is just silence. Fact, a plan failed. Story, this ruins everything. The story creates stress. The fact is just a change in direction. Stoics remove the story, not to become numb, but to become clear. This habit takes practice because the mind is addicted to interpretation. It likes drama. It likes meaning. It likes turning events into personal narratives, but drama is expensive. It costs peace. Another Stoic technique is neutral language. Instead of saying, "This is terrible," you say, "This is inconvenient." Instead of, "This is a disaster," you say, "This is a setback." Language shapes emotion. When you soften the words, you soften the reaction. Modern psychology calls this cognitive reappraisal. Stoics were practicing it thousands of years ago. Over time, your inner dialogue changes. You stop seeing events as attacks. You stop seeing problems as threats. You stop seeing inconvenience as injustice. You start seeing them as normal features of life. And when the mind stops dramatizing, the nervous system calms down. This is how Stoics remain unbothered, not because they live easier lives, but because they tell better stories about the same reality. In the final part, you'll learn how to turn this mindset into a daily system so calm and control become your default state, not something you have to fight for. Part 5. Turning Stoic control into a daily system. How to stay unbothered for life. Understanding Stoicism is easy. Living it is rare. Most people feel calm when life is calm. Stoics train to remain calm when life is not. The difference is not knowledge, it is system. Without a system, the mind returns to old habits under pressure. This final part is about turning everything you've learned into a daily operating method. First, accept this truth. You will never eliminate emotions. You will only eliminate obedience to them. The goal is not to never feel anger, fear, or frustration. The goal is to never let these states decide your actions. This requires repetition. The Stoics believed that character is built the same way muscles are built, through consistent training under resistance. Here is a simple daily Stoic system. 1. Morning. Set the frame. Before the day begins, remind yourself of 3 things. Some things are not in your control. People will behave imperfectly. Your job is to respond with reason. This prepares the mind for reality instead of fantasy. You don't hope for an easy day. You prepare for a disciplined one. 2. During the day, catch the first movement. The Stoics paid close attention to what they called the first movement of emotion. This is the initial spark, the tightening in the chest, the rush of irritation, the spike of anxiety. The moment you notice this, you pause. You do not argue with it. You do not obey it. You observe it. This observation is power. It creates the gap between impulse and action. In that gap, you choose. 3. Apply the Stoic filter. Ask yourself, is this in my control? Is my reaction improving the situation? What would a calm, disciplined version of me do here? These questions move authority from emotion to reason. They do not suppress feeling, they redirect behavior. 4. Choose response over reaction. A reaction is fast and emotional. A response is slow and deliberate. You do not need to be quick to be strong. You need to be correct. Silence is often a response. Walking away is often a response. Changing the subject is often a response. Not everything deserves your energy. 5. Evening. Review without self-attack. The Stoics ended their day with review, not judgment. They asked, where did I let emotion lead? Where did I choose reason? What can I improve tomorrow? This is not self-criticism. It is self-training. Progress comes from observation, not punishment. The long-term shift. If you practice this system, something changes slowly but permanently. People stop being able to provoke you. Situations stop feeling personal. Delays stop feeling like attacks. Criticism stops feeling like danger. Not because life becomes nicer, but because you become stronger. You realize a powerful truth. No one can control your emotions without your cooperation. And once you withdraw that cooperation, you become psychologically free. Stoicism is not about winning arguments. It is about winning control of yourself. This is the highest form of power. Not dominance over others, not influence over circumstances, but sovereignty over your own mind. When you reach that state, anger becomes information, not command. Stress becomes signal, not master. And people lose the ability to disturb your inner order. That is what it means to respond, not react. And that is how you remain unbothered for life. Stoicism does not promise you a life without problems. It gives you something far more valuable, a mind that is not controlled by them. You've seen how reactions steal your power. You've learned how the pause gives it back. You've understood how ego, interpretation, and inner dialogue decide whether you stay calm or lose control. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming sovereign. When you respond instead of react, you stop giving your emotions away to people and situations. You stop letting one moment decide your entire day. You stop letting external noise write your internal story. This takes practice, not perfection. Some days you'll catch yourself, some days you won't. What matters is that you keep training the pause, questioning the story, and choosing the response. Mental strength is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in the quiet, ordinary decisions you make when no one is watching. Remember this: no one can control your emotional state without your permission. And once you stop giving that permission, you stop being reactive, you stop being predictable, and you start being free. Return to these ideas. Apply them in real situations. Let discipline replace impulse, because when you master this skill, nothing and no one controls you anymore.